Good evening and welcome to The Debate. We're joined in the studio this evening by Kevin Phillips and Liam Rosenior. There's an air of excitement in the air as the home nations prepare for the Euro 2020 qualifiers. So that's what we're going to be focusing on tonight. Not just England, all of the home nations. So we want to hear from you too. Get involved in the show. You could tweet us at Sky Sports PL. But let's start with the three lions, Kevin. And let's be honest, Callum HudsonOdoi has taken all of the headlines so far. It's an interesting call-up. What do you make of it?
I'm excited about it, and that's my honest opinion. Surprised. A bit of everything, really, but mostly excited. Watching him on clips on TV today, him in training, he looked like he was thoroughly enjoying it. Credit to Gareth Southgate. You know, he hasn't had an awful lot of football this season, but when he has played, he looks exciting talent. He's certainly a player for the future, but as Gareth has shown, the future is now. He's put him into the squad. He believes that he can come in and do a job. So, you know, whether he gets on the pitch or not, but I think just being in and around these top quality players, getting the experience he has. He's been in and around the Chelsea squad for most of the season. He hasn't made a start in the Premier League, which is surprising, but he's an exciting prospect. And I don't think we're blessed with too many of those in our country, although, you know, when you look at the under-21 squad, that looks a strong squad, some good players in there. But I'm excited. I'm excited about watching him and the others that have come into the England squad. So, really looking forward to seeing him perform.
Do you think it's been overplaying, Liam, the fact that he hasn't started the Premier League game for Chelsea? He's played 119 minutes. He's played in Europe. He's scored virtually every time. He's played in the cup competitions as well. Do you think too much has been made of the fact that he hasn't started a Premier League game?
I think a lot's been made of it. I think you need to look at the player and you need to look at the player's qualities and characteristics. And when he has performed for Chelsea, he's performed of a level that is of international level. He's playing day in, day out with some of the best. He's playing with Eden Hazard every day. He's going up against Azpilicueta, who's probably one of the best 1v1 defenders in the world every single day. So the company that he keeps in training is propelling him to a level of international level. And in my time as a player and growing up sometimes I felt it was too long for a player to get a chance with England. We always said, oh, is he of international level? Is he of international calibre? What I love about what we're doing now is we're giving young players a chance to give them the chance to say, I am good enough, or I'm not good enough, and it's a sink or swim mentality. But what's come before that is a real process and a way of bringing players through the youth system. You see the under-17s, the under-20s winning their world championship competitions, and there's a physical profile about these players and a technical profile. They're all quick, they're all great athletes, they all can deal with the ball technically 1v1. And I look at the under-21 squad, I'm just excited about some of them coming through. So I'm looking at 8 or 9 in that under-21 squad have a fantastic chance within the next year of pushing into the first team
I think
squad.
that's, for me, it's one of the big messages that it sends out, not just to the competition within the main squad, but the 21s. It sends a message to them that, you know, if I play well, if I perform week in and week out, I will get an opportunity in the full squad.
Well, there's the question. He didn't touch the sides of the under-21s. He'd been there 20 minutes and he got taken up. Now, it's important to bear in mind he was a replacement. Although not a direct replacement, so he wasn't a first-time call-up. But what do you think the conversation would have been like between Gareth Southgate and Adi Boothroyd about whether or not he would have been better served playing 2 games for the 21s and playing a full part, or being around the England squad? What would they have taken into account?
I think, can he have an instant impact on a game in terms of coming off the bench, and the way England are playing now 4-3-3 with wide players, it suits him. But I think this is happening because Gareth Southgate was the England under-21 manager, because there's been a clear philosophy in the way that England play over the last 4 or 5 years, not just at first team level, but through their youth teams. So bringing Gareth through, Gareth would have known about Callum Hudson-Odoi 4 or 5 years ago in the role working with the FA. Adi Boothroyd and Gareth Southgate extremely close, and they also play exactly the same way throughout, from the under-16s up to the first team now. So the England players, through those levels, understand what's expected of them at international level. And it was in Spain's best years, in Germany's best years, exactly the same. All the youth teams play exactly the same way as the first team. That pathway becomes clearer because the messages aren't mixed. The players understand exactly what's expected of them.
Does it further back down the idea that he shouldn't be there because he hasn't started for Chelsea? The fact that Bayern Munich were prepared to spend 35, 40 million pounds.
Let's not get... He's a top quality player.
Yeah.
And we haven't been blessed with top. You know, we are talking a top talent here. Bayern Munich don't offer 35 million for nobody. They've done their research. They've done their homework. He is a talent. So why not? Why not blood him through now? Get him in the squad. Let's get him prepared, ready for our next major tournament. You know, he could come in on Friday night. He could come off the bench, make an impact. Who knows? He might start next Monday night. And then he might stay in that. You just don't know.
And do you like to hear that as well? He said exactly that. He said when he spoke to the media yesterday, I want to make an impact when I get the opportunity.
For me, that's for a young kid. That's a great attitude to have. It looks like, just looking at the clips there, he looks like, you know, you can only watch 5 minutes on the telly and you just. But I've been there, seen it. You know, when you get someone coming full of confidence, you want to take your chance. It's refreshing to see. And it's putting competition in, you know, the players that have played in the World Cup that think they're going to get picked week in and week out. This young lad comes into the squad. If he does well, you know, Sterling, for all the same, might be looking over his shoulder thinking,
exactly.
Hold on a minute, I've got to perform week in and week out. Now, would you leave Sterling out of the squad?
Never. Now, first of all, are we right to put him amongst the forwards? Is he a forward?
For me, he's a forward in the way that England play. He's a forward player because he's a forward wide player. So Chelsea play 4-3-3. He's a wide player in a 4-3-3, and he's an offensive player. I wouldn't ever say he was a midfield player. So for me, he's a forward. He's not a forward in the likes of a Harry Kane or even a Marcus Rashford or Callum Wilson, but he's a wide player in a forward area of the pitch. And the way England play now, they try and play a high block, they try and press high up the pitch. He's going to spend most of his time in that England side in high forward areas.
Kevin, you said something there which I find quite interesting as well, about that very, very fine balance in being loyal to the players who did so well for Gareth Southgate last summer. And all international managers have this problem. How loyal you stay to your players and how much you make sure that you freshen it up as well and people can play, people can come into the squad. So, for instance, we've got Odoi, who's not played much, and Gareth Southgate said, when he first took over, I'm going to look at players and how much they're playing for their clubs. Kieran Trippier said a very, very honest interview. He said, I could have played a lot better this season. I know, I've looked at games, it's a learning curve. I should have done better. And there was some real calls for Aaron Wan-Bissaka from Crystal Palace. Now, he's flavour of the month at the moment. He's tracked some great headlines for being a really, really good footballer.
He's a very good player.
Again, tell me, what do you think the dilemma is like for Gareth Southgate between loyalty and also rewarding club success?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and of course, he's the England manager, and he will have these conversations with his staff, people that I just think what it does is it sends a big message out to every English player that's looking to play for their national team. Now, in terms of, I don't think it's a major gamble in putting Odoi in the squad. Defensively, I think that's more of a gamble than putting a Bissaka in, than a more experienced Trippier. Because I think defensively, you've got to be solid. And as we showed in the World Cup, defensively solid. I don't think it's so much of a gamble as throwing Odoi on for the last 20 minutes. Go and express yourself. Go and show everyone how good you are.
There's other things that come into it. I don't think it's just a question of loyalty. It's about the feel of a group. Now, in that World Cup, we saw an England squad, in terms of their team chemistry, in terms of their team spirit, a team that got on really well. And that, I think that's so underestimated in football, is the feel of a group. If you change too quickly from that, Kieran Trippier might be a huge voice in the dressing room in terms of the way he conducts himself in training, the way he conducts himself around the place when they're away on training camps. There's so much more that goes into it just other than playing. And if you change too quickly from a really successful time where young players actually got to a World Cup semi-final, those key characters in the group move the culture of the whole group forward. So you don't want to change too much. And there's key personalities within that group that would keep that going.
But where do you find the balance? Do you just continue to do the coach continually monitor it, where that loyalty, that was what you did, as you guys always say to me, what you did last time, it's the next match that counts.
In the case of this, so Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been outstanding this year, absolutely fantastic. But Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kyle Walker are probably the two most informed right-backs on the planet, let alone in the Premier League. So is Aaron Wan-Bissaka really going to play at the moment? Is he going to push to play? For me, he's better suited. Like, you look at the right-backs there, you've got Kieran Trippier scored in a World Cup semi-final, he's probably third-choice right-back. Kyle Walker and Trent Alexander, for me, two of the most exciting right-backs in the world. So for me, what's better for Aaron Wan-Bissaka? To play in an England under-21s team that, by the way, play exactly the same way with the same demands as the full England team and understand his role within that. Because if I have not a criticism of Wan-Bissaka but a worry about him, it's his technical capabilities in possession. Crystal Palace aren't a team that have a lot of the ball. England want to take the ball and play from the back. All three of those right-backs in that squad, Walker, Trippier, Alexander-Arnold, playing teams that dominate the ball, that they can get forward. For me, Wan-Bissaka's biggest strength is defending 1v1, outstanding athlete. Question marks over his technical capabilities in terms of passing and final delivery on crosses.
What is wonderful to see as well is that he's joined up with his old mate Jadon Sancho. And they go back a long way. They've played right throughout with England at youth level. And it's almost as though we're accepting that Jadon Sancho is part of the England setup there.
He's kind of going under the radar, isn't he, a little bit.
And he is a huge, huge talent. And I still can't get my head around. It was only £8 million he cost Dortmund.
Yeah, well, I wonder what he's worth now. But it's as I said, it's so refreshing to see. And I don't think he'll fill out a place, Odoi, in the squad. I think nowadays our young kids are full of confidence, which is great. You know, there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And I'm sure Gareth Southgate, having worked with the under-21s, talking to Eddie Boothroyd, that would have been part of the conversation. And they've obviously agreed that he would be able to come into the squad, fit in, no problem, won't be a disruption, confident but not arrogant. And I think Jadon Sancho, exactly the same. He could probably have a bit of a question. Could he come in with a bit of arrogance for where he's been playing? I don't think he would, because you look at the dynamics of the squad, I think the minute you step out of line, players are going to tell you in there. I'm sure Harry Kane, and I know that Harry Kane, when he went to Leicester as a young kid, he wasn't afraid when he went there on loan from Tottenham to stand up and say something. I'm pretty sure now he wouldn't worry about saying anything to him. So I think, as Liam rightly said, the dynamic of the squad, you can't change it too quick, but you can drip feed players in and out. Wouldn't surprise me if he's in this squad, next squad, probably won't be in it. Go and play a couple of games for the 21. So, you know, I think it's just getting the balance right.
Well, you mentioned Harry Kane. Let's hear from the England captain and what he has made of meeting up with Callum Hudson-Odoi.
It's been great. Obviously trained the last couple of days. Great guy, great to talk to and get to know. Obviously he's come in and he wants to take full advantage of his opportunity. So yeah, he looked like he's enjoying it out there today, scoring a few goals in training. So yeah, we're excited to have him, and yeah, everyone's kind of fighting for places in this England team, and I'm sure he sees it as an opportunity for himself.
I mean, he's endorsed everything you said there. I mean, how important as well is it, Kev, when you join up with your national team, that the senior players do welcome you into the fold?
It's huge. For me, it's huge.
Do you remember yours?
Yeah, I do. And the senior players were outstanding. Tony Adams there was at the time. Dennis Wise, Alan Shearer. They made you feel part of the squad, which I think's hugely important. Although, as I said before, these young kids now have all got that confidence, that air of, you know, that slight arrogance about them. But
why, were you shy and retiring?
Yeah.
I don't think.
No. But it's so important that the senior players embrace you, bring you into the squad, the staff as well. But ultimately, you as an individual, you've got to step up and deliver. You know, you can't put your arm around someone all the time. When you step on that training ground, it's down to you now to perform. And we've already seen, you know, what this kid can do. Sancho, what he can do. We've seen what Rashford, when he was brought into the England squad as a young kid, you know, I'm sure the senior players put their arm around him, and we're benefiting from that now. So a year, 2 years down the line, we're talking about Odoi and Sancho the way we're talking about Rashford.
In a different way, Liam, are you excited or as interested in Declan Rice?
Yeah, I am, for complete different reasons. I think for a long time, for years and years, we didn't recognise or value the true value of a deep-lying midfield player who could connect the team. You talk likes of Busquets, like Fernandinho does for Manchester City. Now, I remember growing up watching Gerrard and Lampard play, and when they were at their best, they had Claude Makelele behind them or Mascherano behind them, doing that job that Declan Rice does. And that is a key component of a team that plays 4-3-3. And I think he could be key, because what I love about him, yes, he's a fantastic passer of the ball, but he takes up really great natural positions in defensive situations. He covers his centre-halves really well. He's played at centre-half, but he's got the technical capability to dictate play from deep areas, which I think we've lacked for a long time because we haven't valued it in our system. I think he's going to be a key for England moving forward.
Well, when you look at the England midfield as well, there is still pretty stiff competition to get in the side. So this is a good opportunity once again for Gareth Southgate to have a good look at him. What does he offer that we different? So, probably Jordan Henderson and Eric Dyer, the most direct comparisons.
They are.
Aren't they?
Eric Dyer was the one that a few years ago I really thought would take up that position, because he was in outstanding form for Tottenham. His form hasn't been great in the last year. Jordan Henderson's obviously a very, very good player, but I'd say he's more suited to Liverpool's high-energy play, so he's not a fixed defensive midfield player. Declan Rice can sit in front of a back four, read the game, and he reminds me of Michael Carrick. It's so similar in terms of his West Ham upbringing, his understanding of football. And for me, what's held England back hasn't been the technical capability of players or even the physical capability of players. It's the tactical awareness and understanding that I'm seeing from him that I don't see in many midfield players. He's playing at an age of a 28, 29-year-old. He's still very young, and his understanding of positioning is something that's... Like, Kevin was an unbelievable striker. Unbelievable. And we were talking about before, you're instinctive. Yeah. You just take up instinctive positions in the box.
He reads the game, doesn't he, Declan?
He reads the game in a different way from a defensive point of view in terms of his defensive positioning. And it doesn't surprise me to see him be linked with Manchester City, because without Fernandinho in that team, they're nowhere near as capable as a team. That defensive midfield play connects you from your build-up play from the back, and you want to play from the back. You need someone to find those first passes between lines to your Jadon Sanchos, to your Rashfords, and he'll be absolutely vital in that.
Does he also offer some potential tactical flexibility for the coach, in that if he wants to change the shape and drop him back as one of the centre-halves, he can do? I
have no doubt. He's got a good footballing brain.
Exactly.
Technically, he's good. He reads the game. He's getting that experience of breaking up play as that defensive midfielder. He kind of reminds me of a player. We had a player at Leicester called Esteban Cambiasso. Yeah.
Remember?
One of the best in the world as a holding midfielder. And I always remember him telling me one thing, and people talked about his energy as he got older. He said, Kev, it's not how you get there, it's when you get there. And I kind of thought about it, and I just thought that's a clever answer. You know, he read the game, so you didn't have to be the quickest player. Now, I'm not saying Declan can get around the pitch, but it's about being clever, reading it, breaking up the play, intercepting. So I have no issues that he could sit in the back four. Because you see it, when the centre-halves drop away, he'll drop in, he'll get it, he'll play, he can run. But I'll tell you what else he has done this season, he's chipped in with a few goals from set plays. Which is vital. You know, going forward, England are, as we saw in the World Cup, excellent on set plays, a huge part of the game, and he's already shown this season that he can deliver. So another exciting prospect. Got an old head on shoulders. It looks like from the outside, looking in, that he's got good people around him that are giving him sound advice. So that's pleasing to see. Really excited about this kid.
I just think from a tactical point of view, in terms of our modern game in this country, if it was 10, 15 years ago, we wouldn't see even the same qualities. And I think part of that is the way that Tottenham play, the way that Manchester City play, the way that Liverpool play. They play high possession football and press, even Chelsea. And all of these players now are benefiting from playing in that style for England. And that's why you're seeing players go from Manchester City, fit into England's team and produce the performance they are doing, because everything's aligned. It's like a perfect storm at the moment, and it's a lot of different things have happened to make that happen.
The only group we haven't looked at is the goalkeepers, which is remiss of us, to say the very least. I would imagine, again, that both Gareth Southgate and Jordan Pickford himself would have been very pleased with his performance against Chelsea at the weekend. After a difficult day against Newcastle, where it looked as though he got too emotional, too involved, he then, let's be honest, he kept Everton in it.
He did.
First half. He put on a really mature performance. So there's no reason you would have thought for Gareth to move away from him, would you?
No, and we've got to remember he's still relatively a very, very young goalkeeper. And with young goalkeepers, goalkeepers don't peak until they're in their 30s. So for me, he's got another 7-8 years before he gets to his best. And his performance in the World Cup, obviously, were outstanding. But I think it's natural for a goalkeeper in terms of speaking to goalkeeping coaches that I don't have a great understanding of goalkeeping at all, but they say the pictures that you take as a goalkeeper, it comes to the experience of coming for crosses, understanding where shots come in. That takes 10 years. So you've seen goalkeepers like Neuer now and Buffon playing into his 40s still able to do it because they read the game so well. That's something that will happen naturally for Jordan. He's an outstanding talent. He's going to have a dip.
Let's not forget, all this success has come in a relatively short period. So there's always going to be a time, as we know as players, you're going to have a dip. You're going to have a bad game. But unfortunately, he's in a position where it's highlighted. You're England's goalkeeper. So when he makes a mistake, it's more highlighted than someone at the bottom of the league when they make a mistake. But I think his success has come so quick for him. Has he really had time to sit down? He's come from the World Cup straight into the Premier League. Let's face it, Everton haven't been fantastic this season, collectively. A lot's happened to him. He's going to have games, he's under pressure. And naturally, a young kid is going to make mistakes. But he's an outstanding goalkeeper. For me, you don't drop him. You keep him in the team. You play him every international match. And it wouldn't surprise me if this kid goes on to get the most caps for England, because I think he'll actually get, as you say, it's pictures. You get better as you get older, more experience. And he's got a great attitude on him as well, which is great.
OK, I just want to show you two more things. First of all, let's look at England's actual group and what they're up against. Because on the face of it, they should be fairly comfortable in that none of their opponents are ranked in the world's top 40. England are 5 at the moment, and they haven't lost a home qualifier since 2007. Now, I don't say those things because you're setting yourself up for a fall, but it just show that England are in a good place at the moment.
They are, and it'd be an absolute disaster if they don't qualify from that group, and they've still got the semi-final in the summer as well to look forward to. So in the league, in the Euro League, or I forgot what it's called or whatever. But like for me, I think that's why I think you can afford to put young players in now, because they're in that strong a position that they know they're going to go out and win games. Like those teams, they should brush aside. Even the Czech Republic aren't the team that we knew from years ago. No. So it puts Gareth in a position where if you don't know if a player's good enough, put him in and see. Because they're strong enough to cope with it. If they do underperform, they'll still win the games.
Well, let's look even further ahead. Gareth Southgate, he plucked Callum Hudson-Odoi from the 21s. Who else in the 21s right now would you have an eye on for the future? You're both talking excitedly about them as a group. If I said to you, OK, a couple of names, or maybe that's unfair, who in this group excites you?
Well, take your pick. I think that the most obvious one is Phil Foden from Man City. Whenever he's played and he's called upon, and he's scored goals as well. He is an exciting talent. He reminds me of a Jack Wilshere. I think, Harvey Barnes has done really, really well. Maddison. There's so many young players, obviously, we spoke about Bissaka. It's exciting. I'm excited about the future.
You can't list all of it.
Well, why can't you, Why can't you?
Foden's going to be an incredible footballer. I think he's going to be amazing, and he'll play make tens and tens of caps for England and be a massive standout for that team. But what I love about the whole profile of that group of players are they're all fantastic footballers technically, and they're all fantastic athletes. Like Lookman got a great year with Leipzig in Germany. Reece Nelson is doing great things at Hoffenheim. Dominic Solanke is someone who excites me. I think Eddie Howe has done absolutely fantastic to bring him in. I think Liverpool will end up ruining that. I know they're flying at the moment, but he's young, he's an exciting player. Sessegnon, James Maddison. The list is endless.
Also, when you look at that list as well, even starting right at the beginning with Angus Gunn, there is quite a number of Premier League appearances there, aren't there?
Exactly.
These are well-known faces. At least 50% of that group are well known.
And I think that wouldn't be an issue then. So when they do step up, it's not a problem to go in and perform, or at least be training with the full team. So, I think the correlation between the 21s and the foot, they have such a integration. Whereas I think before, perhaps when I was involved, there wasn't that relationship with the under.
Now.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So everyone's
site.
there. It's so I think that will benefit us as a nation, certainly moving forward.